I want to tell you about a conversation I had with a prospect a few weeks ago. They have been maxing out their Roth IRA every single year for the past 4 years. They're disciplined, consistent, never miss a contribution. Exactly the kind of financial behavior most people never follow through on. Then I asked one question: what tax bracket are you in? The answer changed everything. They were in one of the highest federal tax brackets, and for someone in their specific situation, a traditional IRA would have saved them a significant amount in taxes every single year they have been contributing to a Roth IRA. Money they paid to the IRS they did not have to pay. They did everything right except for one thing. Nobody ever explained to them that a Roth account is not always the better choice. They just heard Roth is great, and it is, but great for who depends entirely on your situation. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how to think about this decision for every income level so you can stop guessing and make the call that actually makes sense for you. I'm Ken Erdman, financial planner and founder of Erdman Financial Group here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Let's get into it. Before we get into which one is right for you, let me make sure we are on the same page about what each one actually does. Both a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA are individual retirement accounts. Both let your money grow without being taxed while it sits in the account. The difference is when you pay the taxes. With a traditional IRA, you contribute pre-tax dollars. So you get a tax deduction today, which lowers your taxable income right now. Your money grows tax deferred, and when you take the money out in retirement, you pay ordinary income tax on withdrawals. With a Roth IRA, however, you contribute after-tax dollars. You don't receive a deduction today, and you pay those taxes now. Your money still grows tax-free, and when you take the money out in retirement, you pay nothing. There are zero taxes on withdrawals. For 2026, you can contribute up to $7,500 per year to an IRA. That limit applies whether you choose Roth, traditional, or a combination of both. If you are 50 years or older, however, there's a catch-up contribution that allows an additional $1,000 on top of that. So the fundamental question is simple. Do you want the tax break today, or do you want tax-free money in retirement? And the answer to that question comes down to one thing more than almost anything else. Where do you think your tax rate will be when you retire compared to where it is now? Here is a simple framework. If you expect to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement than you are today, Roth almost always makes more sense. You pay taxes now at a lower rate and enjoy tax-free withdrawals later when your rate would have been higher. If you expect to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement than you are today, traditional often makes more sense. You get the deduction now at your higher rate and pay taxes later at the lower rate. If you expect to be in roughly the same tax bracket, the math is close to a wash and other factors start to matter more. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most people assume they will be in a lower tax bracket in retirement because they will have less income. And for many people that is true. But for high earners who have built significant retirement savings, that assumption is worth questioning. Required minimum distributions from traditional accounts start at age 73. And then you have Social Security income and investment income as well. A well-funded retirement can push you into a higher bracket than you expect. That is exactly the scenario where the person in my opening story found themselves heading. And there is another consideration entirely for high earners that most people never really hear about, but we'll get to that shortly. Roth tends to make the most sense if you are earlier in your career and your income, and therefore your tax rate, is likely to grow significantly over time. The younger you are, the more powerful the Roth argument becomes because the tax-free compounding has more years to work. Think about it this way. A 28-year-old engineer just starting out in their career. Lower income today, strong earning potential ahead, with decades of tax-free growth available. Paying taxes now at a lower rate and letting that money compound tax-free for 30 plus years is an extremely compelling case for Roth. Roth also makes sense if you value flexibility. Roth IRAs have no required minimum distributions during your lifetime. You are never forced to take that money out. That gives you significantly more control over your taxable income in retirement, which can have meaningful implications for everything from Medicare premiums to Social Security taxation. And Roth contributions, not earnings, but contributions, can be withdrawn at any time without taxes or penalties. That makes a Roth IRA a uniquely flexible account that serves multiple purposes beyond just retirement savings. Traditional, however, tends to make the most sense if you are in a high tax bracket today and expect your income to be meaningfully lower in retirement. Think about a physician in their peak earning years. High income, high tax rate, significant cash flow. Getting a tax deduction today at that rate and deferring the tax until retirement when income may be lower is genuinely valuable. The deduction is worth more dollars the higher your tax rate is. Traditional also makes sense as part of a broader tax diversification strategy. Having both pre-tax and after-tax retirement accounts gives you the flexibility to manage your taxable income in retirement by choosing which accounts to draw from in which years. That is a meaningful advantage that gets overlooked when people think of it as an either-or decision. The reality for many people is that a combination of both, some traditional, some Roth, is actually the most flexible and tax-efficient approach over a long-term horizon. Now for the part most people never hear about. If your income is above a certain threshold, the IRS does not allow you to contribute directly to a Roth IRA at all. In 2026, that phase-out begins at $150,000 for single filers and $236,000 for married filing jointly. Above those limits, direct Roth IRA contributions are either reduced or eliminated entirely. For a lot of high earners, physicians, engineers, executives, this feels like the Roth door is closed. However, it is not. There is a completely legal strategy called a backdoor Roth IRA, and here's how it works in 2 simple steps. Step 1, you make a non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA. Anyone can do this regardless of income. You just do not get a tax deduction for it. Step 2, you convert that traditional IRA contribution to a Roth IRA. Because you already paid tax on the money when you contributed it, there is typically little to no additional tax owed on the conversion. The result is that you now have money in a Roth IRA growing tax-free, even though your income technically disqualifies you from contributing directly. It is one of the most valuable but least understood strategies available to high earners, and it is something that should be on the radar of anyone whose income is approaching or exceeding those thresholds. One important note, the backdoor Roth has nuances and a potential tax complication called a pro rata rule if you have existing pre-tax IRA money. This is one of those strategies where getting the execution right matters. It is worth having a conversation with someone who does this regularly before you proceed. The Roth versus traditional question is one of the most common conversations I have with people at every income level. And the answer almost always depends on things specific to their situation. Their current tax rates, their expected retirement income, their timeline, and their overall financial picture are some of the things that we look for. What I can tell you is that getting this right consistently over many years of contributions makes a meaningful difference. And getting it wrong consistently, like the person in my opening story, has a real cost that compounds quietly over time. That is where working with someone comes in, whether that is a full financial plan or simply making sure the accounts you are contributing to are aligned with your actual tax situation. That conversation is worth having sooner rather than later. You do not need to have it all figured out before you talk to someone like myself. In fact, most people do not. You just need to be serious about getting there. All right, let me wrap this up. Roth versus traditional is not a question with one right answer for everyone. It is a question with a right answer for your specific situation, however. Earlier in your career with growing income ahead of you, a Roth often wins. In your peak earning years with a high tax rate today, traditional deserves serious consideration. A high income earner who thinks the Roth door is closed, the backdoor Roth may be an option worth considering. And for most people, the most tax-efficient long-term approach involves some combination of both rather than treating it as an either-or decision. The person in my opening story did everything right except for one thing. They never had the conversation that would have helped them make the right call for their specific situation. Do not make the same mistake. If any of this resonated, if you are not sure whether you are in the right type of account for your situation, feel free to reach out. I work with people at every stage of the financial journey, and I am always happy to have that conversation. Link to schedule a call is in the description. If this was helpful, subscribe. I put out new videos every week with no fluff, just real planning conversation for people who are serious about building something. I'll see you in the next one.